if you think about people who are very good at maths, they're almost sort of socially stigmatised. You have to be a bit of a nerdy geek if you are good at maths.
Children quite often get their opinion of mathematics, or their view of maths is quite often heavily influenced by the adults around them and their parents.
It's inevitable that we all inherit our parents' neuroses, and I think if you've got a parent that's saying and trying to be protective almost and saying, oh, don't worry, I wasn't very good at maths, that immediately is a fixed mindset. Immediately the child is almost given an excuse and can step back and go, Dad says he wasn't very good, so well, that's all right, I'm not very good, or I therefore don't have to try.
I was maths phobic. I did maths at school, but I also did maths at home. And maths at home was So when I got to school, I assumed that maths at school would be as well. But it wasn't. It was a different experience. But because I had already switched off, I didn't have a chance. I just want to ask, do you have children who are cowering in the corner, not wanting to engage because it's a maths lesson?
I would say a mixed bag. They're always, I think so I've been a teacher for 5 years, so as I've sort of progressed through my career, their children are much more confident in the way they approach maths. So there's always a small group of children who aren't very confident, and I'm not, and a lot of them are girls, unfortunately, and in our school we do target girls a lot.
I thought it was interesting, Cheryl, what you said about being turned off from maths before you even got to school, because I think that's not, I would say that's not that common, because I think when children first go to school at 4 or 5, they do all these kind of activities in the early years of counting and sorting, and don't have that kind of awareness of it, of particularly being maths, but just building that confidence with number. But then as they get a little bit older, whether it's from their parents, people at home, or whether it's down to testing or comparisons with classmates and things, I think that's where that kind of perception of that they're not good at it builds gradually.
I really love what you said about different ways of doing it, because I think I had two contrasting experiences of maths, certainly in the primary years. At school, maths always seemed to be that thing out there that I couldn't quite reach somehow, and it seemed that the more that I tried to get it, and the harder I worked at it, on a school level, day to day, the more it seemed to elude me. And so that was quite a dissatisfying experience. It didn't put me off maths, it just left me feeling perhaps less confident.
In school, I used to be like dodging classes for math. But I reduced the fear in me, not to say, this is too much, I can't do it.
But how did you do that? How did you reduce the fear?
I reduced it by having more strength, and more especially when my elder sister said, math is everywhere you do math everywhere, so why are you scared of math?
Right, so she made it easy
yes.
for you.
She sometimes when she gives me money to go and buy something, when I come back, she said, how much is the change I give? You say, you see, that's math.
Because I also fell into the camp of the maths phobic until I had little ones in my life, because I taught maths with them kind of almost naturally as an aunt. So things like estimations of time or estimations of a journey, that's all maths. But because I had branded myself through my own background as maths phobic and not very maths literate, I didn't realise actually I was really good at maths in everyday life.
Children nowadays do not see everyday maths as perhaps they used to. I think, like I've said to you, it's all done through chip and pin, through, it's a number and it's a card. It's not, you're handing over a £20 note, your shopping costs £15.99. They don't see that, and they don't handle it as much as perhaps they should. My son's 6, he's got a bank account. We've gone and, I've gone with him. He knows how to pay money in, to take money out, to budget. I want a brand new bike, right? How are you going to go about saving for that brand new bike? Because you're not just going to get given it, actually. Not in my world, anyway.
Being a bit on a tangent, but
going on questioning tangents.
So I've got a 5-year-old, and he's really confident with maths, because I do a lot of maths with him as it comes up in our day-to-day life, and he's just the whole curiosity, questioning, giving him the chance to actually talk, sort of, so I'm not doing much of the talking, is asking him, oh, for example, he discovered 3-digit numbers just by looking at house numbers, like walking up the road and then just asking, oh mummy, oh what happens, why is it 3-digit numbers, what happens, and then, so that's how he was introduced to that concept of maths, and that's well before he started school. He doesn't think it's maths, he just thinks he's helping mummy.
The majority of our parents wants to help their children, want them to be able to master things, and I think the new curriculum in that way, there isn't more or less of an emphasis on putting maths into context. I think it's always been there, but children need to make those links, and I think parents are vital in that regard, whether you're going on a car journey and you're looking at the number of telephone pylons or whatever.
If we sat down with the children in our lives and said, now we're going to learn maths, they run for the hills. Whereas when you do it, as you were saying, when your son just happens to observe a 3-digit number, you know he's learning, but you don't go, oh, now we're doing maths, because that would just be so counterproductive.
So how is the ordinary parent going to explore everyday maths? Going shopping with their child, and their child is noticing things, and they respond in an appropriate way to develop that. Do you know what I mean? Rather than your child recognising 3 digits. You as a teacher know it's 3 digits. The ordinary parent in the street probably wouldn't just, oh yeah, lovely, great, and then walk on. Or do you see what I mean? How do parents encourage all that? How do we as educators encourage parents to explore that more with kids?
Children are very good at the notion of sharing, whether they can do the sharing. That's all maths, isn't it? If you've got 10 sweets and there are 8 children, those sort of things, rather than the books where you have these strange abstract problems to solve, sometimes when there's things on a table that are colourful, apples, oranges, whatever, that's an entry point possibly for parents, and it's not something that costs very much, does it? So if you've got fruit at home or sweets or whatever it might be that you have in the house.
There are some really deep concepts in that as well, I think, because I've been to many a kid's birthday party where you have a cake and a child will say, I'm going to have half, and then slice off an enormous wodge of the cake and say, that's my half, and that tiny little bit there is your half. Clearly it's not a half, but just for someone to say, no, to equal, to make fair, that's a really deep concept that sets them up for life.
Oh, Joe's got a good story, haven't you, on this one?
My parents used to do this thing with my brother and me, and if there was a piece of cake left over or something, they'd say, right, you cut, he picks. And it was just utterly brilliant. And if you were the one that was cutting, you would spend because you knew that if you got it, if there was a bigger bit, your brother would take it. You'd get the smaller bit.
It's quite precise, isn't it? It's like cooking is the obvious one. You have to be very precise if you're baking a cake. But I learnt that as a child, and that's maths. But because my mum never said that was maths, and because I had the same thing like you're saying, she said, we're not a maths family. We're good at English. So I just inherited that as a belief.
Right, yeah.
And then at school I wasn't good at maths, so I just walked around all my life saying, I'm useless at maths, we're not a maths family. It's just rubbish, absolute rubbish.
Maths is in the park, maths is shopping, maths is swimming, maths is everywhere. And that's what we're talking about, maths is everywhere. So if I was to say, for example, going into town, a trip into town, it costs nothing. How can that be mathematical?
There's all sorts of ways. It's things like thinking, how are we going to get into town? And getting children to make decisions. It's about planning, it's about cause and effect. It's about thinking, well, if I do this, then the consequences of that will be this. It's kind of about exploring things rather than about going, that's an answer, that's an answer, that's an answer. Asking questions about things.